How long does it take for your company to activate a new customer? Nuvo helps LBM suppliers get customers ready to buy on house accounts in minutes, not weeks, not days. With instant verifications, streamlined job sheets, and real-time credit insights, your team can start loading trucks while your competitors are still checking references. Check out Nuvo. Reach out to the team at nuvo.com, that's nuvo.com, to learn more. Hey there, I'm Thea Dudley, also known as the Credit Overlord, and welcome to LBM Talks Credit. We are the only podcast that talks trade credit in the lumber and building material space. Never miss an episode, stay tuned, and we're glad you're here. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of LBM Talks Credit. I'm Thea Dudley, your host, also known as the Credit Overlord. And this episode is going to feel a lot like therapy because we're going to be talking about credit and sales, every credit manager's favorite topic. And with me today is a longtime friend, sometimes frenemy, sometimes friend, sometimes someone I'm like, please get out of my doorway. Andy Ruwe, who is Vice President of Inside Sales for Cameron Ashley. We've worked together for a very long time. Andy, welcome.
Oh, thank you. A long time. It was like 25 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. Oh, and nothing brings people together like mutual frustration. And I know that's something from both sides of the aisle. We always got along really well. That I can't say that about every salesman I've ever worked with. You are, I don't think you realize how unique you are because you're someone, I was telling Sally earlier today that I've never actually seen you mad. I mean, not to where it showed.
Well, it happens.
Even when I was screaming at you, which was so professional and glorious, but it kind of highlights a lot of the frustration that credit managers sometimes feel where it's like, hey, sales doesn't seem to get what I do. And what's interesting about you is that you're in sales, but you have an accounting degree, which I find singularly fascinating.
That would be true. But I never practiced the accounting degree. I was always more about the sales. So at the end of the day, my overall philosophy is very similar to sales. Dealing with people and credit is the same thing. At the end of the day, you're trying to identify. We're both trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to sell the customer. You're trying to figure out a way that I can sell the customer and still collect. So that's the important part. And sometimes the customer's numbers don't always make sense. But we have to figure out how we can come to a conclusion that we all feel secure and the company is secure at the same time.
So since I've got you here, and you're very level-headed, very practical, and we've worked through a lot of situations before that were very frustrating, sometimes stomach turning, where it's like, hang on, I got to throw up in my trash can really fast because I just heard something about a customer. And you're like, well, I'll just hold it for you. It's like, can you just hold my hair because I'm throwing up now? And where it was just really rough. When you look at some of these situations, and when we call it the let's agree to disagree type of situation, sales is saying one thing, credit is saying another, and nobody's listening to the other side, or we're not getting anywhere. And we come up with, well, we're just going to agree to disagree. And you walk away. It's like, well, this doesn't work because now the customer's just out there in the middle of nowhere. We haven't actually solved anything. We just kicked the can down the road. How would you tell a credit manager to approach that better?
My philosophy is it shouldn't get to the point where we agree to disagree, because then we haven't responded to the customer and the customer's needs. In other words, one of the reasons you would probably get frustrated at me being at your door is because I will continue to ask questions. Because we have to find a common place to be, or I have to be very secure in the fact that this is not the right customer to sell. It really comes down to, first of all, credibility to me is the key to sales and to anything you do at work. Anything you do in life, if you really think about it. My credibility is the most important part. Being genuine, being honest, and trying to work through whatever issues are there. If I'm talking to a customer, what am I doing? I'm trying to find out what their pain points are, and I'm trying to solve their problems by coming back to them with answers and resolutions that will help me earn the business. If something goes wrong with the customer, which it does happen, you can't be afraid to call the customer up and tell them what went wrong, but show them what you're trying to do to fix it and work your way through that problem. In a lot of cases, working with credit or any other division in the company, you have to do a lot of the same types of things. And if I come down and you think that I'm just trying to sell you on something, we're not going to get anywhere. We have to actually talk candidly of, okay, well, why don't you feel good about this customer? Well, he won't share the financials with me. Okay, is there another way that we can skin that cat? We've gone to the point where you actually went out and visited the customer for us, developed a relationship on that end, and we were able to still sell them through the process. So there's different ways around it, but you have to have the credibility with your internal folk as much as with your customer when you're trying to work through those issues.
I think what you hit on with that whole credibility thing is one of the most critical components, especially when you're talking about, hey, you want me to get out on a limb with you for this customer. I'm like, I don't know. Tell me everything you know. And if you're just going to tell me whatever, blow smoke up my skirt because you want to make this sale, well, we both still work here. You're going to come back around, and then that's not going to have gone over very well because I'm going to remember, and it's not going to go well. So I love that you pointed that out. Not everybody is cut from the same cloth. You've got credit people that are really great and will bust their tail for you. And then you've got the rubber stamp reject. They didn't fit into our narrow scope or our parameters. And you've got the same with sales. It's like, you're selling me like a used car salesman, and I'm feeling it and I know it. This isn't us building a relationship together. So Andy, how would you coach a salesperson who comes to you and says, our credit manager is the worst. She does not want to sell anybody. She hates me, and I'm never going to make any money here because she vetoes everything I do?
Well, first of all, I'd ask the salesperson to sit down and tell me why they think that.
Because she said, I hate you, get out of my office.
And then I'd deal with probably an emotional outburst through that process because of something that recently happened. In a lot of cases, sometimes in today's generation or today's world, not the generation part, in today's world, we are moving so fast that everybody is operating via email and text and communication, that method. And quite frankly, when you're dealing with sensitive issues like that, you can't do that because people misread what is being said in those emails based on the mood they're in at the time that they're sitting at their desk. And the reality is just walk over and talk to the person. It helps you develop that relationship that you need with your credit department. It also helps you try and figure out what they're looking for in order to be able to do their job and make sure they're comfortable giving the risk to the customer so that we can sell them something. But I would say that in a lot of cases, a lot of people lean on email and other things more than just personally talking through it. And I can tell you that a lot of times, and it's hard, you can sit there and be mad and frustrated and go, well, I'm just going to send an email back. But that doesn't get you anywhere. It's hard to just get up, walk over, and talk to the person. But when you do, you work through it, and man, it just makes everything else flow going forward.
Which, I love that, where it's like we live in such a tech-driven world, but what tech can't do is tech can't factor in the human factor of it. It can't go with the intuition, with, the history, the knowledge, the delivering, the relationship aspect of it. And, that's where somebody will, write an email to me, and you're right. There's no great way to say, well, your credit report looks a little Swiss cheesy, and I'm going to need to see some financials. I can say that to somebody in a phone call so much smoother and easier and with a little bit of jocularity to it, instead of just, dear so-and-so, I've seen your credit report and it's just not happening for you. What else have you got? People take that very personally. And I know everyone says, oh, don't take it personal. That's really easy to say, but it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
It's like your credit manager seems like a hag. It's like, some days, I don't know.
At the end of the day, if you spend some time sitting down asking the credit manager, what do they need and what are they looking for the customer? don't get me wrong, I'm a salesperson, so a lot of times they're going to look for everything, the full financials, the personal guarantee, and everything else through the process. In reality, you're not always going to get that. But if I know what they're trying to accomplish, I can simplify that process. And where we come up short, we figure out, okay, how can we operate? And maybe I don't need a $300,000 credit limit for this customer to start. Maybe we're better with a $100,000 risk, and we see how it goes through, and the customer earns their way through that. And when the customer comes back and says, well, why did I only get 100,000? Well, if you could help us a little bit more, but those are all different conversations that come out of it. There's no black and white piece to that other than the numbers that the credit manager is looking at in today's world when they're analyzing what that business is worth.
Yeah, but that's, I think, what sets the independents apart from the big box is you hope that your credit managers are not just underwriters, that they're looking at the global and not just that one little, hey, here's the numbers in front of me. I don't know you like that. It's like, Andy, help me with this one. Here's what I'm seeing. I need a little bit more. Let's talk through it. I mean, I know when I told a salesman no, and about an hour later, I'd look up and you'd be standing in my doorway with a big smile. I'm like, oh, please get out of here. And your famous line of,
and when your head rolled back like that, I tell you how nice your hair looked.
same look. It's like, oh my God, my hair looks like crap. It's been a long day and there's probably like popcorn or a pen or something stuck in it. Who knows? But that's where I know, okay, you're coming to help solve this, or let's find a way to get to a solution. I'm not, yes, I'd like to get to yes of a way to sell this guy, but how do we solve this? And that drives all back from that relationship piece. When I look at some salesmen, and I can't even say that it's generational. I can't even say it's an age thing. It might just be a personality thing, or whoever raised them in sales maybe did them a little bit of a disservice when they're constantly combative instead of, being more curious as to why did you come to this decision?
There were two pieces of that. First of all, as a sales leader, I need to figure out how we can financially feel comfortable selling every customer in the world. That's part of my job.
I wish you some serious luck with that.
I know. A lot of times my salespeople are going to, they have a little bit more passion towards the customer that they're trying to sell. So there is a little bit of a balance between both. And I appreciate my better salespeople are always going to be passionate about the people they're trying to sell, and they better be, because that's what I need. Those are the people that need to be coming to my office all the time telling me, hey, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this. Those are your best salespeople. At the same time, the credit department needs to be a little open-minded that I'm coming back over because I need to try and figure out how to support the salesperson as well as the company to close the sale. And I also recognize that the credit person has to be able to defend the decision and the risk that they're taking. And a lot of times there is a lot of different ways to come across that answer, especially in the lumber dealer business or the independent world, by just talking through it. Sometimes the credit manager needs to talk to the customer. Sometimes I don't want the credit manager to talk to the customer. Tell me what you're looking for and I'll get it for you.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, because that is the credit manager's like pet peeve. It's like, see, I don't want you talking to my customer. It's like, no, first of all, it's our customer. And second of all, what are you hiding?
It's not.
We're a suspicious lot by nature. It's always, what are you up to? Tell me, maybe this is just a horrible human being and you're like, I'm just trying to spare you from this.
Not at all. Just it depends on where I stand in the relationship with the customer through the process. And if it's a brand new relationship that I've been fighting for years, and all of a sudden they're giving me a chance, I'm going to be pretty protective of that initial relationship and the way the messaging is coming to that customer, especially when it's something sensitive like credit. Doesn't mean that I don't trust the credit department, because Thea, I've had you call thousands of my customers over the years, and you've had some difficult conversations with them that, sometimes I've had to smooth over. Sometimes they usually always worked out, but we work our way through it. But there is some of that. And what I would say is that if the credit manager feels that way, I would rather you just be open and ask me, because again, it goes back to having that relationship, being honest and credible. I'll explain, hey, this is a brand new relationship. I've been trying to get this guy to give me a chance for 3 years, and he's given me a chance. Can I make this phone call just to try and get through this initial part?
But see, as a credit person, I can appreciate that. It's the tattletale kind of guys that get you, where they'll tell everybody around you, or it's like, can you believe they won't let me? It's like, okay, but just, it goes back to ask the questions, have a conversation with me. It's like, hey, it's not against you personally. You do a great job. Here's where I'm coming from. And that's that whole, bringing that relationship piece into it and having that. I can't tell you how many plates of huevos rancheros you watched me eat as we walked through
Mexican Friday.
Happens to be my favorite meal. I mean, you guys, the sales team, Andy had what did you call it? Mexican Friday or Mexican Friday. And
cures all sins.
It really does. It's hard to be mad at someone over queso. So, or a plate of, my favorite huevos rancheros. But having that relationship and talking through and, sharing with you what's going on in my world from the credit side of it. It's, hey, we just took a couple of hits. I've got these customers that are just sliding down the hill and I don't see any way to redeem them. And now you're bringing me this guy and it's not even so much about the account that we're talking about. It's just everything that came before it. And that's investing time in getting to know each other's world.
But then I know what pressure you're under based on where we're at with the organization. And we're trying to figure out what is the best way to move forward, knowing that everything starts with sales.
So let me ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
Aside from the ones we've already covered. So have you ever lost a sale due to a credit policy that you disagreed with?
Well, I always found a way to say yes. But
okay, because good salesmen will. They're like, find a way to get this through here.
At the end of the day, we've lost sales because a customer got a phone call that we asked for some additional information, and they took it wrong. And some of those customers we've been able to talk to, and we got the business back, and other customers were offended by some of that happens. The goal is not to get to that stage. The goal is to be able to work your way through to where the company is secure and that we can still sell the customer. But yeah, you're going to lose some customers some potential customers over not feeling comfortable enough to take a risk on them. The goal would be that we continue to try and find a way to work through that with the customer and still with our credit department to be able to make the sale and be able to collect.
No, I think that's another kind of lead in for, have you ever had a sales and credit moment that aligned really well that ended up being a big win for the company?
I mean, the ones that work that way is usually a really good customer that's an easy decision and everybody sells. No,
yeah, could you find more of those? Because those are always great. It's like, this is a no-brainer, sell him more.
Over the years, we have had some very good customers that have gotten into some trouble. I'm not going to name names. And that we've had to really work closely together, both on our end, on the credit department end. And Thea, you've had to talk to some of those customers. And they were big customers with some big credit lines. But for the most part, I can think of 3 or 4 of those where they got way behind and we worked our way through it to where one of them was bought from us for 35 years because of the risks that we took in helping him get through his problems. And then once they got caught up and back in a good position, we just continued to do business, and they were very strong and continued for many years. So I can think of them. I'm not going to necessarily name the names.
No, and I don't know that they would appreciate it either. But those, when you come out on the other side of those always feel so good. But when you're in the moment and you're working through them, your heart's in your throat most of the time going, okay, we're doing this. I hope everybody is bringing their A game, and we're putting all our ugly bits on the table, and we're coming into this, with clean hands, like we're going to court. We're making sure that we're putting all the bits and pieces out there so that everybody is in the same position. Everybody has skin in the game, and everybody has something to lose.
I think it's important to recognize that it's a stressful situation. And from the sales manager or sales leader side, we have to make sure that we're empathetic towards the credit manager in that process, and that they understand that we understand the stress that they're under, because even though we agreed to do it together, internally that credit manager is saying, oh man, it's my neck on the line. No, it's not. We did all this together. If we work through that in order to land where we landed, we're in it together, and how do we get out of it together is what you have to work your way through. And again, I can think of many times where I've had to, similar to at the first customer that I've been trying to for 3 years, and I want to make that first phone call to them. I've also volunteered to make the very difficult conversation to the guy that I had the relationship with that was doing $20 million with me, and said, what's going on? Because I'm dealing with all kinds of heat on the other end. You need to start doing some things here. So it works both ways through the process, but we're in it together. And it's not just the credit manager that should be stressed in that situation, because it's basically all of our, it's our decision together in that situation, and we need to solve it.
Well, and I think it's important for, credit and sales to both understand that, look, if I come to you, Andy, and say, look, I am fighting to keep this customer from going into collections. They're paying us, but maybe not as much as we'd like. I'm getting, pressure from our CFO. I need you to come with me and have the conversation and support so that they can see we're aligned. I would rather us both go and fight for this customer, that you're willing to do that. And not every salesperson is, and not every salesperson's equipped, but every sales leader should be.
You don't want me to just hide in my office and lock the door?
Well, nice try, but
at the end of the day,
standing out in front of it, screaming and beating on it is, it's so undignified. It's not that I wouldn't do it. It just really dumbs down our relationship.
The reality is a sale is not a sale until it's paid for. And so I can do whatever I can do on the front end and get the sales. But if we're not collecting on the back end, then none of us win also. And that goes even with the customer. I can't sell the customer if I'm not bringing value to them. So the goal is to have value all the way through the whole supply chain in the process. And so, if we're on the edge of getting worried about a customer going to collections, we need to stand up in front of the customer together and talk through it. And ideally, we have the relationship with that customer because we've added enough value there that they're going to talk through it also. And we go back to our honesty, credibility, and talk through that difficult situation and what are the solutions to that. Some cases it could be a 2-for-1 deal. Some cases it could be a little more security. Some cases it could just be hey, here's the timeline that I believe I can get caught up on and I can work with you. Can you live with that? But we have to have those conversations.
You're somebody that is not afraid to talk money to a customer. You're somebody that is not afraid to have those hard conversations. How do you coach people on your sales team to have those conversations? That's a big thing that I hear from a lot of credit people. They're like, yeah, I don't know who you work with, but my guys just do not want to talk about money to their customer. They're like, look, I want to be the good guy. I want to be the guy that just, talks about, we're going to go golf. We're going to do this. I'll get you your, whatever you need for sales. I'll get you your products, but I don't want to deal with the money part. Andy, how do you teach a salesman to have some of those hard conversations?
I would say that I've learned it over the years. And the reason that I would hope that my customers buy from Cameron Ashley or buy from us is because they know that not everything goes right. But they want to deal with the people that are straightforward and honest with them. They're going to be quick in response, and that they know that there are people that company is out there fighting for them to resolve the issues. So having said that, how do I train my salespeople in that same thought process so they're treating their customers respectfully that way? In a lot of cases, they'll come over to me and say, hey, I got this problem. I've got this issue with this customer. And I'll sit there and go, okay, explain it. And I'll have them walk me through the problem that came up. And then they say, what am I going to do? And I say, why don't you call the customer and tell them the exact same thing? But before you do that, how are we going to resolve the issue? And have a couple of answers, and then call the customer and do that. So to me, that's kind of the same thing with talking about money or anything else. You just got to be straightforward.
Let's just get that out there for everybody, because not everybody talks about money the same way. Some people get really squishy and uncomfortable. So if there is, like, for credit managers, the one phrase that comes out of every salesman's mouth that just makes me cringe is, he's a really good guy. Is there one phrase that comes out of a credit manager's mouth that makes you go, I never want to hear that again?
No.
Just the word no. Okay. You're like, nope.
That's too absolute for me, and I live in a gray world. I know what credit managers are trying to do, and they're trying to protect the company, but they also are being challenged to find ways to sell the customer. So I can't think of something that comes offhand, but you said being curious is a key thing. I think that's what always drove me. If somebody does say no, I'm going to ask why. It's just my common response because I want to understand. If it's on the sales side, I'm going to ask why, because I want to know why my competition offered something that was more valuable than I was offering, so I can learn from that and get better so that I can earn the business the next time. If I get a no from a credit manager, I'm going to ask why, because I got to figure out what is it that they're looking at that I don't understand. As good as the customer is, as good of a guy as the customer is, what is it there that I don't see? Because there's something legitimately there that concerns the credit manager. So if I understand that, then I can try and figure out my way of still resolving the issue and protecting the company overall.
And that's why I loved working with you.
Well, thank you.
So, Andy, thank you for joining us today. I have loved our conversation, and to all of our LBM warriors out there, take from it, the bits and pieces that work for you, take it back into your organization, disagree better, communicate often, communicate a little more, and try to keep a sense of humor with it, and maybe throw in some, Mexican Friday.
Mexican Friday is great.
That wraps another episode of LBM Talks Credit. Andy, thank you again for being here. Loved having you. And LBM Talks Credit comes out every other Tuesday on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And we are helping trade credit speak its mind one episode at a time. Thanks again to our sponsor, Nuvo, and we'll catch you next Tuesday.